A millionaire catches his wife shoving the housekeeper down the stairs. The truth leaves him stunned. Elias Vance got home early that Thursday. He was drained after a brutal, all-day meeting at the firm, and all he wanted was a strong coffee and a moment to decompress before dinner. The penthouse in Manhattan, overlooking Central Park, was eerily silent when he unlocked the door. Too silent. Then he heard Tinsley's voice, his wife's, from the second floor. It was sharp, aggressive, and carrying a dangerous edge. Elias frowned, starting up the sweeping marble staircase. He and Tinsley had been married for 6 years, and lately their relationship had been running cold. She was always tense, always finding something to complain about. But this felt different. As he reached the landing, Elias froze at a scene that turned his blood to ice. Tinsley stood there, her face crimson with fury, gripping the arm of Maya Reyes, the housekeeper who'd been working for them for 3 years. Maya, a young woman of just 29, had wide, frightened eyes. She was trying to pull away, but Tinsley held her tight. "You think you can just do whatever you want into my house?" Tinsley shrieked, shaking Maya roughly. "Ma'am, please, no, I was only cleaning the guest room, I swear." Maya stammered, her voice shaking. "Liar!" Tinsley's free hand shot out, connecting with a sharp slap across Maya's face. Elias took a step, ready to intervene, but Tinsley moved first. She shoved Maya with all her strength. The young woman lost her footing, her heels scraping the edge of the step. She began to fall. "No!" Elias lunged. He managed to grab Maya's arm at the very last second, yanking her back before she tumbled head over heels down the staircase. Her weight nearly threw him off balance, but Elias was strong. He pulled her onto the hallway floor, safe. His heart was hammering in his chest. Maya lay curled up, trembling, with tears streaming down her face, hugging herself. Elias turned slowly to Tinsley. She was standing with her arms crossed, showing not an ounce of remorse. In fact, she looked annoyed that he'd gotten involved. "What in God's name were you doing?" Elias asked, his voice low, tight with contained rage. "She was going through my things," Tinsley scoffed, flipping her platinum blonde hair back. "These people think they can just invade your privacy, rifling through your drawers." Elias looked at Maya, who was still on the floor, holding the spot where she'd been hit. "She's the housekeeper, Tinsley. Her job is to clean the rooms." "Don't pull that with me, Elias. You always take their side, never mine." Elias took a deep breath, trying to regain control. He extended a hand to Maya, gently helping her up. "Are you okay?" he asked kindly. Maya nodded, clearly shaken, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "Go to the kitchen, Maya," Elias said, his voice firm but reassuring. "Get some water, then you can leave for the day. I'll pay you for the full week." "Thank you, Mr. Vance," Maya mumbled, then hurried down the steps, still shaking. Elias waited until her footsteps faded. Then he turned back to Tinsley, no longer masking his fury. "We need to talk. Now." Tinsley rolled her eyes. "I have nothing to discuss with you, Elias. You always treat me like the villain." "You nearly killed her." Elias gestured to the stairs. "You pushed her. If I hadn't gotten here—" "But you did," Tinsley interrupted coldly. "And as always, you made sure to make me look bad." Elias stood silent for a long moment, staring at the woman he'd married. She was beautiful, yes. The sleek blonde hair, the clear eyes, the elegant posture. But in that moment, he didn't recognize her. When they met, she had seemed sweet, attentive. Now it was as if her mask had dropped. "I want you out of the house," Elias finally said. Tinsley raised her eyebrows in shock. "What?" "You heard me. Pack your things and go. I don't want you here tonight." Tinsley let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "You can't kick me out, Elias. This house is mine too." "This house is in my name," Elias corrected, his voice firm. "And after what you did today, I won't have you here. Go to your parents' place. Go to a hotel. I don't care. Just don't sleep here tonight." For a fleeting second, Tinsley looked ready to argue, but something in Elias's steely gaze made her change her mind. She shrugged, grabbed her designer handbag from the console table and started down the stairs. "You're going to regret this," she tossed back without turning around. Elias didn't reply, staying put at the top of the stairs, listening to her footsteps recede. When the heavy front door slammed shut, he finally let out the breath he'd been holding. What had happened to his marriage? How had they reached this point? And more importantly, what was he going to do now? The next morning, Elias woke up alone. The spot next to him was cold and empty, and for a brief moment, he almost forgot what had happened. But then it all rushed back. Tinsley's scream, the shove, the look of terror on Maya's face. He showered quickly and went downstairs to the kitchen. Maya was already there brewing coffee. When she saw him, she tensed up, as if expecting to be reprimanded. "Good morning, Mr. Vance," she said in a quiet voice. "Good morning, Maya." Elias sat at the island counter. "How are you? Did you sleep well?" Maya seemed surprised by the question. She nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. Thank you for yesterday. You saved me." Elias shook his head. "You don't have to thank me. What happened was wrong, truly wrong." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Maya, I want you to know that you can work here without fear. What my wife did won't happen again." Maya looked at him, and Elias saw the doubt in her eyes. It was clear she didn't entirely believe him. "Thank you, sir," she said, turning back to the coffee machine. Elias spent the day in thought. He went to his office, but he could barely focus. His mind kept returning to the same point: his marriage to Tinsley. How long had he been unhappy? How long had he pretended everything was fine? He remembered meeting her 6 years ago at a major charity gala. Tinsley was the daughter of a well-known developer, and everyone said she was the perfect woman. Beautiful, educated, from a good family. Elias had fallen fast, or so he thought. Now looking back, he wondered if it wasn't just the pressure from everyone around them. His parents adored Tinsley. His friends envied him. Getting married had seemed like the right move, the next box to check. But in the last 2 years, everything had changed. Tinsley had become distant, cold, complaining about everything: the house, the staff, the routine. Elias had tried to talk to her, tried to understand what was wrong, but she always changed the subject. And now, after yesterday, he couldn't ignore the truth. Tinsley wasn't the person he thought she was. That afternoon, Elias got a call from the family lawyer. "Elias, I need to discuss something delicate," the lawyer said in a serious tone. "Tinsley contacted a law firm this morning. She's filing for divorce." Elias wasn't surprised. In fact, he felt a strange sense of relief. "I understand," he replied. "What is she asking for?" "Half of everything: the penthouse, the companies, the accounts. She claims she contributed to the marital estate throughout the marriage." Elias let out a short, humorless laugh. "Contributed? Tinsley hasn't worked a day in her life." "I know, but property division can be complicated depending on the state and how the assets were acquired." "Do you have a prenuptial agreement?" Elias closed his eyes. That was the part he dreaded hearing. "No, my parents suggested it, but Tinsley was offended. She called it a lack of trust." The lawyer sighed on the other end. "That complicates things, but we'll work through it. I need some documents and information. Can we meet tomorrow?" "Yes, absolutely." After hanging up, Elias sat in silence for a long time. The divorce didn't frighten him. It was a relief. But the thought of losing half of everything he had built, that hurt. Not because of the money itself, but because it felt profoundly unfair. He had worked hard to build his import-export company, pulling all-nighters, sacrificing weekends. And Tinsley? Tinsley had attended galas, traveled with her friends, and spent money as if there were no tomorrow. When he returned home that night, the penthouse was quiet. Maya had already left. Elias made a sandwich in the kitchen and ate it alone. Sitting at the massive dining table they once used for parties with friends, he thought about Maya. The young woman had always been discreet, polite, and hardworking. In the 3 years she had worked in the house, Elias had barely exchanged more than a few words with her. But yesterday, when he held her to stop her from falling down the stairs, he had seen the pure fear in her eyes, and it had shaken him in a way he hadn't expected. "Tell me, what city and state are you watching this video from? I'll read all the comments." Later, lying in bed, Elias made a decision. He wasn't going to accept Tinsley's demands. He was going to fight, not for revenge, but because it was the right thing to do. He had built that wealth through his own effort, and he wasn't going to let someone who nearly harmed an innocent person walk away with half of it. But there was something else, something he hadn't fully admitted to himself yet. He wanted to protect Maya, And it wasn't just a sense of justice, it was something more. 2 weeks passed since the night of the shove. Elias and Tinsley hadn't spoken again. All communication now went through the lawyers. The divorce proceedings were underway and things were getting nasty. Tinsley was demanding absurd amounts, claiming she had been mistreated during the marriage and deserved compensation. Elias knew it was a lie, but proving it in court would be another matter. Meanwhile, life in this penthouse continued. Maya came every day, cleaned the house, prepared meals, but Elias noticed she was different, quieter, more distant. Sometimes he'd catch her staring at the stairs with a worried expression, as if reliving that terrible moment. One Saturday morning, Elias decided to break the silence. He was drinking coffee on the terrace when Maya walked past carrying a bucket and a mop. "Maya, could you come here for a moment?" he called. She stopped, surprised, and approached slowly. "Yes, Mr. Vance." "Sit down, please." Maya hesitated but finally sat in the chair next to him, her hands folded in her lap, nervous. "I wanted to talk to you," Elias began, choosing his words carefully. "About what happened 2 weeks ago." Maya lowered her gaze. "Sir, I don't want to cause trouble. If Mrs. Vance wants me to leave—" "Tinsley no longer lives here," Elias gently interrupted. "I don't want you to leave. Quite the opposite. You're an excellent worker, and I trust you." Maya looked up, surprised. "Thank you, sir." Elias took a sip of his coffee, wondering how to proceed. "Maya, I need to know, was that the first time Tinsley treated you badly?" There was a long silence. Maya bit her bottom lip, clearly uncomfortable. "You can tell me the truth," Elias encouraged her. "I won't be angry with you." Maya took a deep breath. "No, it wasn't the first time," she admitted in a low voice. "Mrs. Vance was always difficult. She yelled at me over small things. If a glass was left out of place, if the food wasn't exactly how she wanted it, but I needed the calm, so I put up with it." Elias felt his rage building. How could he have been so blind? "Did she ever hurt you before?" he asked, dreading the answer. "Once she threw a cup of hot coffee at my arm," Maya said, pulling up her sleeve to show a small scar. "She said it was an accident, but I know it wasn't." Elias closed his eyes, clenching his fists. He wanted to scream, to break something, but he controlled himself. Maya didn't need to see him lose his temper. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "I should have noticed. I should have protected you." "You didn't know," Maya replied with a generosity Elias didn't feel he deserved. "And in the end, you saved me. If it hadn't been for you that day—" She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't have to. They both knew what could have happened. Elias looked at her. He truly looked at her. Maya was beautiful in a simple, natural way. Her brown hair was pulled back in a ponytail, her face was without makeup, and her dark eyes were full of a quiet strength he hadn't noticed before. "You are a brave person," Elias said sincerely, "and I want you to know that you can count on me. If you need anything, just ask." Maya smiled for the first time in weeks. It was a small, shy, but genuine smile. "Thank you, Mr. Vance. That means a lot to me." In the following days, Elias and Maya began to talk more. Nothing intimate, just casual chats about the day, work, life. Elias discovered that Maya was intelligent, funny, and had a way of seeing the world that he admired. She didn't play the victim, didn't complain about her tough life. She just worked day after day with dignity. And the more he talked to her, the more he realized something that scared him. He was starting to feel something for Maya. It wasn't just gratitude or pity, it was attraction, respect, and admiration. But Elias reprimanded himself. He was technically still married. The divorce was in process but not finalized. And Maya was his employee. It would be wrong, inappropriate. But the feelings didn't leave just because he wanted them to. The divorce dragged on. Tinsley refused to concede anything, and her lawyer used every possible tactic to stretch out the process. Elias was frustrated, tired of the fight. He just wanted to move on with his life. But then one Tuesday afternoon, something happened that changed everything. Elias was at the office when he got a call from his lawyer. "Elias, I need you to come in now," the lawyer said urgently. "We have a problem." "What problem?" "Tinsley is claiming you had an affair with the housekeeper." Elias felt the floor drop out from under him. "What? That's ridiculous. I never I know, but she says she has proof. Photos of you talking, of you being kind to her. She claims you cheated, and that's why she deserves more in the settlement. Elias couldn't believe what he was hearing. Tinsley was willing to lie, to invent an absurd story just to extract more money. That's a lie, Elias said firmly, and I will prove it. I know, but in court, the truth sometimes isn't enough. We need a strategy. Elias hung up, trembling with rage. How could Tinsley do this? How could she be so cruel, so petty? When he arrived home that night, he found Maya in the kitchen washing dishes. She immediately noticed something was wrong. Mr. Vance, are you all right? She asked worriedly. Elias sat at the table, running his hands over his face. No, Maya, I'm not well. He told her everything about Tinsley's accusations, the lien, and how it could affect the divorce. Maya listened in silence, her face growing paler. But that's not true, she said when he finished. Nothing has ever happened between us. I know, but Tinsley says she has proof, photos of us talking. Maya shook her head in disbelief. Mr. Vance, I am so sorry. This is all my fault. If I weren't here. No, Elias interrupted firmly. It is not your fault. It's Tinsley's fault. She's willing to lie and invent stories just to get her way. They were silent for a moment. Then Maya spoke with a determined voice. I'll testify in court. I'll tell the truth about everything. About how Mrs. Vance treated me, about the shove, about it all. Elias looked at her, stunned. Maya, you don't have to do that. It could be difficult, painful. I know, but you saved me. You protected me. Now it's my turn to protect you. Elias felt a warmth spread through his chest. It wasn't just gratitude. It was something deeper, more intense. Thank you, he said, his voice husky. Thank you, Maya. She smiled, and for the first time, Elias noticed how truly beautiful she was. Not Tinsley's artificial beauty, laden with makeup and expensive clothes, but a real, genuine beauty. On the day of the hearing, a week later, the courtroom was packed. Elias sat next to his lawyer, his hands sweating and his heart pounding. Tinsley was across the room, elegant and confident, as if she already knew she would win. The judge called Maya to the stand. She walked up to the witness box, nervous but resolute. Elias saw she had worn her best clothes, a simple but clean dress, and her hair was pulled back. Tinsley's lawyer cross-examined her first, trying to trip her up, to make her contradict herself. But Maya stood firm. She recounted everything, the mistreatment, the shove, the burn on her arm. And when Tinsley's lawyer insinuated that she and Elias were having an affair, Maya looked him directly in the eye and said in a clear voice, that is not true. Mr. Vance has always been respectful to me. Never at any time has he been inappropriate. He saved me when Mrs. Vance tried to hurt me, and I am grateful to him for that. But there is nothing more between us. Elias watched Tinsley's face drain of color. Her lawyer tried to object, but the judge cut him off. I've heard enough, the judge said, his voice weary. It is clear to me that there is no evidence of infidelity on the part of Mr. Vance, and Mrs. Vance's accusations of abuse are serious and troubling. In the end, the judge issued the ruling. The divorce was granted, but Tinsley would not receive half of the estate, only a small settlement, far less than she had demanded, and a restraining order was issued, prohibiting her from going near Maya. When they walked out of the courthouse, Elias felt as if an enormous weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He was free, finally free, and by his side, Maya was smiling. 6 months have passed since the divorce. Elias was sitting on the terrace of the penthouse, drinking coffee and reading the paper. The morning was cool with the sun shining gently over the city. Life had returned to normal, or rather, it had transformed into something new. Maya was still working at the house, but things were different now. She and Elias had truly become friends. They talked about everything, laughed together, shared stories, and little by little, without either of them saying it, their feelings grew. Elias knew he was in love with Maya. He had known for months, but he was afraid to say it, afraid of ruining the friendship, afraid that she didn't feel the same way. Until one Sunday afternoon, while they were together in the garden, he finally mustered the courage. Maya, can I ask you something? He said, setting aside the watering can. Of course, Mr. Vance. Elias, call me Elias. She smiled. Elias, are you happy here? He asked, feeling a bit clumsy. Yes, very. You, Elias, are a good boss and a good friend. Elias took a deep breath. It was now or never. What if I wanted to be more than friends? Maya stopped what she was doing. She looked at him, her dark eyes wide with surprise. What do you mean? She asked in a low voice. I care about you, Maya, a lot. And it's more than just friendship. It's more than that. There was a long silence. Elias felt his heart pound in his chest, fearing rejection. But then Maya smiled, a big, genuine smile. I care about you too, Elias. I have for a while. Elias felt a wave of relief and happiness. He stepped forward, taking her hands in his. Then would you like to go out to dinner with me? Like a real date? Maya laughed, a light musical sound. I would love that. They started dating but kept the relationship private at first. Elias didn't want Maya to feel pressured or uncomfortable, but gradually they opened up more, gaining confidence. Elias's family was surprised, of course. His parents couldn't understand how he could be with the housekeeper. But Elias didn't care. He had learned that what others thought didn't matter. What mattered was what he felt. And what he felt was love. Real love, not the illusion he had had with Tinsley. Maya made him happy, made him laugh, made him think, made him want to be a better person. And he hoped to do the same for her. A year after the divorce, Elias proposed to Maya. It was simple, without grand gestures or expensive rings. He took her to her hometown in New Mexico to meet her mother and younger siblings. And there, in a small plaza near the house where she grew up, he knelt down and asked her to marry him. Maya cried and said yes. They were married in a small ceremony with only their closest family. There were no luxuries, no ostentation, but there was love, so much love. Elias knew that life wouldn't be perfect. He knew there would be challenges, difficulties, but he also knew that with Maya by his side, they could face anything, because she wasn't just his wife. She was his partner, his best friend, his refuge. And in the end, Elias understood something important. Sometimes the best things in life come from the places you least expect. He had spent years with Tinsley trying to make a marriage work that was destined to fail from the start. But with Maya, everything was easy, natural. He had found real love, and he wasn't going to let it go. Sometimes the most important people in our lives are closer than we imagine. You just have to open your eyes and your heart. If you enjoyed this story, comment below, share it with your friends, and make sure to subscribe to Rich Hearts Revealed to hear our next story.